I knew that somebody was going to that night. Somebody was going to get shot.
Last time I saw him, his eyes were still open. He was just looking up. Just looking like.
What if the King of New York never left the throne? Imagine this. 2 decades after the world was told Biggie Smalls met his end in a hail of gunfire, the internet erupts with blurry concert clips, viral photos, and hacked news feeds, all suggesting the unthinkable. The man they called the notorious B.I.G. didn't vanish into history. He staged the ultimate escape, and if the whispers are true, he's been hiding in plain sight, his legacy twisting into something far stranger than a tragedy. This isn't just another conspiracy, it's a puzzle with too many pieces fitting together, lyrical hints buried in his own tracks, corrupt officials allegedly covering his exit, and a fan base convinced he's alive, thriving somewhere beyond the spotlight, maybe even alongside the one rival who was supposed to be his eternal enemy.
We all hopped out. Everybody door open but Big door. We all went and got on the back of the truck and and then we all peeked, looked around, Big door went open. We all ran back to Big. He was slumped over the console. And by that time, his truck had came back around.
We know the official story by heart. March 9th, 1997, Los Angeles. A black GMC Suburban rolls up to a red light. Shots ring out. Christopher Wallace, just 24, is pronounced gone hours later. Case closed, except it wasn't. No arrests, no definitive answers, only a web of motives, from East Coast-West Coast tensions to Bad Boy Records' escalating feud with Death Row. But here's where the script flips. In the years since, the digital age has turned Biggie into a ghost story. Fans dissect grainy footage from underground shows, swearing they see his silhouette in the crowd. Social media accounts resurface old interviews where he drops cryptic lines about leaving the game on his own terms. And then there are the financial breadcrumbs, an estate now worth over $200 million, managed by a mother who, before her passing, allegedly hinted at secrets she'd never reveal. Coincidence? Or the ultimate misdirection?
You know what I'm saying? It's that situation when we are living in a war zone. It's not as easy as these people are making us think, that we just got some criminal black kids with guns. It is not like that. We live in hell. We live in the gutter. We got us stacked up 80 deep in one building. By the time you get out your house, you strapped to protect yourself.
The parallels to another rap icon's afterlife are impossible to ignore. Shakur's 1996 passing sparked the same firestorm of doubt. Fans insisted he faked his demise, fleeing to Cuba under Fidel Castro's protection. His aunt, a fugitive herself, allegedly sheltering him. Former bodyguard Michael Nice claimed he helped smuggle Shakur out of the country. Even producing audio, he said, confirmed Castro's involvement. Then there were the sightings, a man in his 40s posing with fans in Belize. Locals in Old Havana swearing they'd seen him walking the streets. And let's not forget the albums. 7 posthumous releases dropped with eerie timing. The cover art? A crucified Shakur. The liner notes? Exit Shakur, enter Machiavelli. A nod to Machiavelli, the strategist who famously wrote about faking one's end to outmaneuver enemies. If Shakur could pull it off, why not Biggie?
It was like with some people they didn't, like the flow. With some people they didn't like the image. It differed, but nevertheless we couldn't make it happen.
Now, fast forward to today, where the stakes have never been higher. Biggie's estate just finalized a blockbuster deal, selling 50% of his catalog, publishing, masters, even his name and likeness, to Primary Wave for a figure rumored near $150 million. The timing? Suspicious. His mother, Valletta Wallace, the architect of his posthumous empire, passed away just weeks before the ink dried. Insiders claim she'd been negotiating the sale from her hospice bed, ensuring her son's legacy would be monetized long after she was gone. But here's the twist. Former associates like Gene Deal, Diddy's one-time security, now allege the deal was rushed, exploiting a dying woman's vulnerability. They ain't for Miss Wallace, they ain't for Big's kids, Deal told The Art of Dialogue, pointing fingers at estate reps Wayne Barrow and Mark Pitts, men Diddy himself installed years ago. So who really benefits? And why now, as Diddy's own legal nightmare unfolds in a Manhattan courtroom? Speaking of Diddy, the man once known as Puff Daddy is now the center of a storm that makes Biggie's conspiracy look tame. Federal prosecutors are building a racketeering case against him, alleging a decades-long scheme of coercion, intimate gatherings so extreme they've been dubbed freak-offs, and a network of silence bought with NDAS and threats. The evidence? Raids on his LA and Miami mansions turned up over 1,000 bottles of personal lubricant, firearms, and what sources call a trove of digital files. But here's where the plot thickens. Court documents from Shakur's case, unsealed in recent months, reveal Diddy's name appears 47 times in a single police interview. Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, the only living suspect in Shakur's passing, allegedly told detectives Diddy offered millions for hits on both Shakur and Suge Knight. He wanted the man's head, Keefe claimed, describing a meeting where Diddy's fear of Knight was palpable. And the motive? Retaliation for Hit 'Em Up, Shakur's scathing diss track that targeted Diddy and Bad Boy. Keith even alleged Diddy paid for the weapon, a Glock 40 caliber, through an intermediary named Zip, who later vanished with the cash.
I believed him because he wasn't talking just to be talking. I felt he was also coming straight because there was a big war behind that. A war that they lost. And I think it was a war that destroyed their neighborhood.
But the connections don't stop there. Retired LAPD Detective Greg Kading, who spent years reinvestigating both cases, published a book alleging Diddy hired Keef's crew to eliminate Shakur and Knight for $1 million. The hit, Kading claims, was greenlit at Greenblatt's Deli, where Keef says Diddy told him, "We'll wipe their crew out quick." 6 months later, Biggie was gone. Coincidence? Kading's theory? Knight retaliated by ordering Biggie's downfall through a Bloods affiliate, turning the rap feud into a blood-for-blood exchange. And now, with Keef finally indicted for Shakur's passing after decades of silence, the question isn't just about justice. It's about what he might reveal under pressure. Federal sources tell the U.S. Sun that Keef, facing life in prison, could be the key to unlocking Diddy's role in both tragedies. He's an OG from Compton, one insider noted. He's rubbed shoulders with the biggest names. And when the handcuffs go on, people start talking.
Are you surprised to know that this is where Diddy's life has ended up at the moment?
Am I surprised at that?
Are you surprised that he's currently sitting in a prison?
No.
Meanwhile, Diddy's trial looms like a reckoning. Prosecutors accuse him of running Bad Boy Records as a criminal enterprise, where women, including his ex, Cassie Ventura, were allegedly pressured into encounters with male companions while he filmed. Surveillance footage from 2016, obtained by authorities, shows Diddy chasing Cassie down a hotel hallway before assaulting her. And yet, as the courtroom drama builds, a critical witness, victim 3, has gone missing. Prosecutors admit they can't locate her, raising fears she's been silenced or bought off. Her testimony was supposed to be explosive, detailing years of exploitation. Now, with jury selection underway, Diddy's team is pushing for answers. If she doesn't appear, does the case unravel? Or is her disappearance just another layer in a story where the truth is always for sale? But let's circle back to Biggie, because this is where the threads converge. If Shakur's survival was a blueprint, could Biggie have followed it? The clues are there, buried in plain sight. His final album, dropped just weeks after his passing, its title a haunting double entendre. Fans point to the track I Love the Dough, where he raps, "I'm seeing ghosts in the mirror. Who's that man there?" Lines some interpret as a wink to his planned disappearance. Then there's the matter of the autopsy photos, or rather, the lack of them. No clear images of Biggie's body have ever been released to the public. In the coroner's report, inconsistencies abound, from his listed height and weight to the angle of the fatal shots. Meanwhile, former LAPD officers have hinted at a cover-up, suggesting certain files were lost or redacted. One retired detective, speaking off the record, told the Daily Mail, "When you've got this much money and power involved, bodies don't stay in the ground."
Believe it or not, my son was my best friend. I miss him a lot.
And what about the sightings? In 2018, a viral photo surfaced allegedly showing Biggie at a private event in Atlanta, his face partially obscured but his stature unmistakable. The image was debunked. Or was it? Digital forensics experts noted the metadata had been scrubbed, making verification impossible. Then there's the 2021 clip from a Brooklyn block party, where a figure bearing a striking resemblance to Biggie steps out of an SUV, surrounded by security. The video was pulled from YouTube within hours, but not before screenshots spread like wildfire. Coincidence? Or a calculated leak designed to keep the myth alive? Insiders claim Biggie's inner circle, including Diddy, has long controlled the narrative, feeding just enough crumbs to keep fans guessing. After all, a fallen legend is profitable. A living one? Priceless. But here's where the story takes its darkest turn. If Biggie did fake his end, who helped him disappear? The answers might lie in the same shadows that swallowed Shakur. Both men were entangled with figures who operated above the law, record executives with ties to organized crime, off-the-books security teams, even foreign governments. Castro's Cuba wasn't just a hideout for Shakur. It was a sanctuary for American fugitives, from Black Panthers to CIA turncoats. Could Biggie have followed the same path? Rumors persist of a network that smuggled high-profile figures out of the U.S. using private jets and falsified documents. And let's not forget the timing. Biggie's passing came just as federal investigators were closing in on death row's financial dealings. A man with his connections and his enemies would need more than luck to vanish. He'd need a machine. And what about the money? Biggie's estate has ballooned from $10 million at the time of his passing to over $200 million today, fueled by posthumous albums, merchandising, and now a 9-figure catalog sale. But who's really collecting? Valletta Wallace's passing left control in the hands of Barrow and Pitts, men with deep ties to Diddy's empire. And with Diddy now facing life in prison if convicted, the question isn't just about Biggie's survival, it's about who stands to inherit the kingdom. Primary Wave's deal ensures they'll profit from his likeness for decades. But what if the likeness isn't just a brand? What if it's a man waiting in the wings? We can't ignore the eerie symmetry between the two rappers' afterlives, both left behind cryptic clues. Shakur with his Machiavelli persona, Biggie with his life after death prophecy. Both had estates that grew exponentially after their supposed ends, managed by figures with questionable motives. Both were linked to Diddy, a man now accused of orchestrating violence from the shadows. And both have reappeared in ways that defy logic, their images surfacing in places they shouldn't be, their legacies manipulated by forces we can't see. Is it all a coincidence? Or is there a playbook at work, one that turns tragedy into legend and legends into immortal cash cows?
Without that. And then us coming up, 50 and everybody, what you made think they get bulletproof trucks for?
But let's step back and ask the question no one's daring to voice. Why would a man at the peak of his power choose to erase himself? The answers might lie in the psychology of survival, a topic that forensic experts and music industry insiders have whispered about for years. Biggie's lyrics were never just verses. They were confessions, raw and unfiltered, painting a portrait of a man trapped between the streets that made him and the fame that was consuming him. Tracks like Everyday Struggle weren't just storytelling, they were cries for an exit. Psychologists who've studied the mental toll of rapid fame point to a phenomenon they call the celebrity paradox, where the more adored you become, the more isolated and paranoid you grow. For someone like Biggie, who rose from Brooklyn's crack-era chaos to global stardom in just 3 years, the pressure wasn't just about money or rivalries. It was about the inescapable sense that his life was no longer his own. When you're a target for gangs, the FBI, and a music industry that chews up icons, disappearing isn't cowardice, it's strategy. And then there's the matter of the threats, the kind that don't make headlines but linger in the background like a ticking clock. By 1997, the East Coast-West Coast feud had escalated beyond diss tracks into something far darker. Shakur's passing 6 months earlier wasn't just a warning, it was a blueprint. Sources close to Biggie's camp at the time claim he was receiving direct warnings from figures within the LAPD that his name was on a list, one circulated by Crips affiliates tied to death row. The fear wasn't abstract, it was operational. Former associates have since suggested that Biggie's inner circle, including figures linked to Diddy's security detail, had begun exploring contingency plans in the weeks leading up to March 9th. One theory, floated by a psychologist who worked with artists under similar stress, posits that faking his end wasn't just about escaping danger, it was about regaining control. In a world where every move was watched, every lyric dissected, and every rival waiting for a misstep, vanishing was the ultimate power play. It turned the hunter into the ghost.
But a lot of evidence points to it having been very much planned out.
But the psychological motives run deeper than fear. There's the matter of legacy and how Biggie's posthumous empire was constructed with almost eerie precision. Consider this. His debut was a masterclass in raw authenticity, but the album released just weeks after his passing felt like a manifesto. The title alone, a double entendre about mortality and rebirth, has fueled speculation that Biggie wasn't just predicting his end, but scripting it. Industry analysts have noted that the album's rollout was unusually meticulous for a posthumous release, with tracks like You're Nobody feeling less like coincidence and more like a calculated wink. Then there's the matter of the vocals. Audio engineers who've studied the recordings point to inconsistencies in the timing of certain verses, suggesting some tracks may have been recorded after his supposed passing. It's a theory that gains traction when you factor in the estate's financial trajectory. A $10 million inheritance in 1997, now worth over $200 million, with deals still being struck decades later. If Biggie did orchestrate his exit, the posthumous albums weren't just tributes. They were breadcrumbs, a way to communicate without revealing too much. The financial angle ties directly into the psychological profile of a man who grew up in an era where trust was a liability. Biggie's lyrics often reflected a deep distrust of the system, from law enforcement to the very industry that profited off his genius. Faking his end wouldn't just be about survival, it would be about outsmarting the machine. Economists who study celebrity estates have noted that posthumous earnings often spike when an artist's passing is shrouded in mystery. Elvis, Shakur, even Michael Jackson, each saw their estates grow exponentially after their passings, fueled by conspiracy theories that kept their names in the headlines. For Biggie, whose estate was managed by a mother who famously guarded his legacy like a fortress, the financial incentives aligned perfectly with the psychological need for control. Valletta Wallace didn't just build an empire, she curated a myth. And if Biggie was alive, watching from the shadows, the estate's deals, like the recent $150 million catalog sale, weren't just business, they were messages. Yet the most compelling evidence might not be in the money or the lyrics, but in the behavior of those who knew him best. Diddy's reactions over the years have been scrutinized by behavioral analysts, who note a pattern of evasion whenever Biggie's name comes up in relation to the conspiracy. In interviews, he's deflected with humor or outright silence, a stark contrast to his usual bravado. Then, there's the matter of the 2018 hologram performance at the Billboard Music Awards, where a digital Biggie took the stage alongside Diddy. The technology was groundbreaking, but the timing was suspect. Coming just months after Shakur's resurrection at Coachella sparked a new wave of survival theories. Insiders claim Diddy was initially resistant to the idea, only agreeing when the estate's team insisted. Was it a tribute or a test? A way to gauge public reaction to Biggie's return in some form? The questions linger, especially when you consider the hologram's eerie realism, a detail that required access to unreleased footage and audio. If Biggie was involved in its creation, even indirectly, it would explain the meticulous attention to detail, right down to the way the digital avatar moved like the real man, not an imitation.
Pac would have boxed him. Pac would have loved to beat his ass in the ring, raise some money, and give it to the hood.
And then there's the ultimate question. If Biggie did fake his end, what does he gain by letting the world believe he's still out there? The answer might lie in the power of uncertainty. In an industry built on image, the one thing more valuable than fame is mystery. It's why Shakur's shadow looms larger now than it did in life, why Elvis sightings still make news, why the idea of a living Biggie keeps resurfacing in viral clips and fan theories. For an artist who once rapped about being black and ugly as ever, the ability to rewrite his own narrative, from victim to architect, would be the ultimate revenge. The financial windfalls, the estate deals, even the occasional sighting, all serve a purpose. They keep the legend alive, and the legend is what protects the man. Because in the end, the truth doesn't matter. What matters is the story. And if Biggie Smalls taught us anything, it's that the best stories are the ones that never really end.
Does that give you any closure? Or, what does that do for you to see that? Because I can imagine it could be very conflicting.
Yeah, because I don't champion putting young black men in jail. Black men in jail.
Right.
Jail, period. That ain't. But
perhaps the most chilling piece of this puzzle isn't the sightings or the financial trails. It's the silence from those who know the truth. Diddy, the man at the center of it all, has never directly addressed the Biggie conspiracy, just as he's never been charged in Shakur's passing despite Keefe D's allegations. His legal team calls the claims pure fiction, but the court of public opinion isn't so sure. And then there's Suge Knight, the other key player in this saga, currently serving 28 years for an unrelated conviction. In a 2014 interview with TMZ, he dropped a bombshell. Why you think nobody been arrested if they said they the one that took out Shakur? Because Shakur not gone. The statement was dismissed as delusional rambling until Keefe D's indictment proved there was fire behind the smoke.
You understand? I think that they don't want, if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions, they don't want it to get out to the general public to make up their brand.
So where does that leave us? With two rap icons whose ends were never quite believable. With a music mogul facing life in prison, his name tied to both tragedies. With an estate sale that feels less like a business deal and more like a final move in a decades-long game. And with a question that grows louder every time a new photo surfaces, every time a witness vanishes, every time a deal is signed in the quiet of night. What if the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he was gone? The stage is set. The players are in place. And if the past is any indication, the next act will be even wilder than the last, because in hip-hop's shadow world, the only thing more valuable than the truth is the illusion of it. And someone's been selling that illusion for a very long time. As these threads tighten, one thing becomes painfully clear. The King of New York might still be out there, pulling the strings from the shadows. The sightings, the financial trails, the cryptic lyrics. They're not just coincidences, they're clues. And if the truth ever comes out, it won't just rewrite the history of hip-hop. It'll expose a conspiracy so deep it could bring the entire industry to its knees. But here's the question that keeps us up at night. If Biggie really is alive, who's been protecting him all these years? And what happens when they can't keep the secret anymore? So tell us, do you think Biggie's been hiding in plain sight this whole time? Or is this the ultimate hip-hop myth, a story too good to be true? Drop your theories in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for the next chapter of this wild ride. Because in a world where legends never really fade, the truth might be the most dangerous thing of all. Stay tuned, stay curious, and remember, in the game of shadows, the king always has the last move.